Welcome everybody to BMW's X3 M Competition. This is the first ever version of a true M car on a BMW compact SUV. And in addition to that, this is the first BMW M SUV that I've found interest in, and there's a lot going for this car. It's got a brand new engine, still a 3-litre twin turbo straight six, but totally revised brand new sheet of paper, which will become the new engine for the M3 and M4, as it's now got quite a few competitors in this field. All of them have quite a good amount of driving influence built into them, but as this is claiming to be a full M car, I'm wondering what it's going to be like in regular day-to-day situations as a sports car, but also an everyday SUV. So what we're going to be doing today in the streets of Toronto is driving about, finding what it's like behind the wheel on day-to-day commuting. Then I'm going to place it in my ranking system to see where it competes against other performance SUVs. So let's hit the streets and get rolling. So after spending some time with the X3 M Competition, I'm going to come away with a fair few thoughts that I think at times might contradict, because this overall I think is quite a complicated car. In a way, it's very simple. It's the fastest version of BMW's X3. It's properly been fiddled around by the M department. But for many enthusiasts, something that has four-wheel drive or is an SUV form can't qualify as an M car. So that's immediately going to dismiss this car for a lot of people. And I think that is truly a shame, because there are so many elements of this car that make it quite the enthusiast choice. But because of that, I think it's going to cause some issues for its target audience that are looking for a fast and capable compact crossover, because one of the greatest takeaways I've had with driving this car is the ride quality. We've got a totally different suspension system. With the M Competition, you're going to get 21-inch wheels, and of course it's an adaptive spring system, so you're able to go from a comfort mode, from a sport to a sport plus. But no matter what mode you're in, you're going to feel everything transmitted into the wheels, into the suspension, and into the car. Even if you're on perfectly acceptable roads, the X3 moves around quite a lot, and it can't hide the fact that it is a performance vehicle. If you're test driving a regular X3, you could be going on any of these roads and think nothing of them, but here it's making mountains out of tiny little cracks and rivets in the road. This problem, though, I've discovered only really happens when you're in town going at slow speeds. As soon as you pick up the pace and you're on a highway, the ride really ties itself together a little bit better. It feels like less interrupts and upsets the car. But adding on to that, the seats that we have in the M Competition are quite firm. They aren't as deeply set as you might think they are. They're beautiful to look at, great mix of materials, and quite a lot of adjustability. I think some people might see the headrest as a fixed component, but it is electrically sliding up and down to fit the perfect profile of whoever's going to sit in this car. Additionally, though, the foam is quite dense and hard. On highway drives, I feel myself tired after being in this car in day-to-day commuting, and that's something I never felt in the X3. So going on again to who is this car catering for, it's undoubtedly an enthusiast choice, but because of that, you're going to have to suffer with the M sports car performance and really what makes N3 and M3 at the end of the day. So if that's something that's appealing to you, you are looking for the full BMW M experience in a compact crossover that can carry all of your friends and their things, then the X3 M really might be the car for you. But for anybody else, simply stated, I don't think this is a car for people that have money to burn and want the most powerful version of this car. I think there's too many compromises for that kind of individual. For the enthusiasts, though, they've got a lot to love. And starting with the long list of things that I adore about this car is the engine. It's an all-new twin turbocharged 3-litre straight six. I know that sounds like any other BMW performance car in the past, but this one has an S58 engine, which is a brand new piece of paper design for BMW. It has 503 horsepower, 442 pound-feet of torque in this version of the competition, and BMW claims that with the regular X3M and X4M, they can get from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.3 seconds. The competition, 0.1 second faster, but car and driver have been able to get this car to 0 to 100 kilometers in 3.3 seconds. And behind the wheel, it feels it. Even if you're in the efficient mode for the engine, which is the calmest, most relaxed version, there's still quite a lot of skip in its step. The steering is super fast and agile, even in comfort mode. And to add on to all of the different things that you can change around, you can customize with the driving experience, could be overwhelming at first, but I'm sure the joy of owning a car like this is when you go along, spending time in it, figuring out how exactly you want your car to perform. So with these components I'm about to list, you have 3 variations in the modes: the engine, the suspension, the steering, and the shift points. All of these can be programmed as you wish with the buttons set up down here. So if you want the fastest engine response but the quietest exhaust to help out your neighbors and the community of which you are a good servant in, then that's probably going to be the setup you're looking for. Shift lever, which I'll get back to in a minute, it's a couple issues I have there, but you'll see it all come up on your main digital screen. You can go from each mode, and if you ever want to program M1 and M2 that you have with the big red buttons here on the steering wheel, you just go into the system menu and set up the car as you wish. Another thing adding on to that, this has the MX drive system, much like the BMW M5 in which it debuted, but for that car you could totally disconnect the front axle. Here you definitely can't. It's either four-wheel drive or four-wheel drive sport with a little more rear bias. And when you put the exhaust on, go into a manual mode, drop down a couple of gears, this is what it sounds like. God, this thing is fun. The problem is that it's so damn fast. You're getting yourself in trouble by just getting out of first gear, hitting the red line on first gear. Faults with the driving experience really can't be felt, I think, in city driving or even when you're trying to push it on a bit of a back road. The back end stepping out, whether you're in four-wheel drive or four-wheel drive sport mode, is very clearly defined of when you can feel the rear tires step out a little bit. And it's something that I want to continue driving hard, even though I know there are some sacrifices along the way of regular in-town driving. So all the faults that I might have towards the driving experience are something that will never change, but something that will change with your exposure to this car is the M-specific shift lever. It's a totally different design of any other car that BMW is currently making, and it's a bit strange when you get into it at first, because with all the other BMW shift levers, you have the unlock button on the side, of which you'll put it into drive or reverse and go on your way. But with this, just by turning the car on, it's in park and you have to knock it to the side to get into drive or sport, and you'll know which mode you're in, whether normal drive mode or the manual sport mode, by if the plus or minus are illuminated or not. To go into reverse, you have to put it up and to the left like you're driving a BMW manual car. It's odd having one of these self-righting sticks without an unlock button, but after experiencing this car for the time that I've been driving it, it's something that I have been able to get my head around. Other aspects of driving this M car, well, I love the way it looks. I'm already quite a big fan of the X3 and the butch looks on this car. The larger wheels, the blacked out exhaust tips, I think looks fantastic. The interior as well feels like a significant upgrade over the regular X3s. We've got the different steering wheel, different seats, and here with this beige insert along the door cards, the stitching and the seats, it's a genuinely beautiful place to sit. We've got the carbon fiber upgrade, and you'll see here we've got M stitched colors into the seat belts. There's only a few things that differ the regular X3M to the X3M Competition. First of all, you'll get the black trim surrounds on the grille and around the glass. You're going to have M Sports exhaust as standard, where in the regular car you won't. A boost of 30 horsepower and 21-inch rims as standard. But you'll notice on this car we have the 20s as it's wrapped in the winter tire rubber, of which you can't get with the 21-inch rim. In comparison to the regular X3, I don't think you're really losing anything in terms of practicality. The boot is just as large. You've got all the versatility of folding down the seats if you need to. Sitting behind myself, I think, is just as comfortable. Maybe a little less knee room, but not enough to really complain. Perhaps the only difference I've found is that you don't have any seat pockets behind the front seats. And that concludes all of my thoughts towards the BMW X3 M Competition. Overall, it has some compromises as a car, and I don't think that anybody with a bit of money behind them and the ones looking for the most powerful engine are going to get into this car by mistake. I think this is the enthusiast choice, and saying that, if you're going out to buy an X3M or X3M Competition, in my ranking system, I'd say it's something that you should heavily consider owning. Probably not the best for long-term comfort, but the way this thing looks and how many smiles it brings me from behind the wheel, it fulfills everything in my mind that a sports car should. So that's been everything from me. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. Please like the video if you liked it, and share it to others if you think they'll like it too. And of course, sharing, subscribing, commenting, all of those things helps out this channel so I can do more videos just like these. Thanks again. Hope to see you again here soon.